I feel like since we did the Madman quotes right out of the gates, we should have a Washington story as our lead today, given the previous culture there, not obviously the current culture there. But let's start with Von Miller, Broncos linebacker, March 16 deadline for an $18 million option the last year of his contract. No criminal charges will be filed against Von Miller. Now, there was a vague police investigation that led to an even more vague referral to prosecutors, which has led to a far less vague conclusion that he won't be charged. We don't know what they were considering charging him with, but reportedly he won't be charged. Hey, Myles, the way the NFL handles the personal conduct policy, that doesn't necessarily end it unless they want to end it. If they don't want to end it, they can continue to pursue it. They can investigate, they can suspend, they can do whatever they want to do. So if I'm the Broncos, I'm still not 100% certain there's not going to be an issue for Von Miller. But the bigger issue is, do you pay the guy $18 million in 2021? I think at a minimum, they're going to have to work on that before they keep him on the team.
Yeah, no doubt. I just don't see why you would keep him around for that much money if you do want him to continue to be on the team. And it seems like they do, both George Paton talking this week and then Vic Fangio talking this week. It seems like they would like to have Von Miller back, but at the same time, I think that there is going to have to be some type of restructuring in order for him to not only be back, but to be back at a number where they're comfortable based on where the salary cap is going to be. Because as we know, and as we continue to see, so many guys are either getting cut or are restructuring because of the way the salary cap is going down this year for 2021. Then that is happening, of course, because of the pandemic. So I would assume that if Von Miller is going to be back, it's going to be at a lower price tag, Mike.
And Myles, I can't help but wonder whether there's going to be some big name that stuns us all that gets cut between now and March 17 when all teams have to be in compliance with the 2021 salary cap. It won't stun us if Von Miller is cut because that's on the radar screen. Fairly big name. Super Bowl 50 MVP, didn't play last year. $18 million, I think, too rich for Denver's blood. And it's a Ben Roethlisberger type of a situation. How much can they squeeze him? How much will he agree to take below what he's entitled to get? And would he be interested in playing for your Cleveland Browns, for example, with Myles Garrett or some other team that is more likely to contend this year than the Broncos would? He's got that power to say, no, set me free, and off you go. The Denver Broncos will not be setting free safety Justin Simmons. He'll be franchise tagged again at a 20% bump over last year. Salary cap doesn't matter for him. If you've already been tagged, you get your next tag at a 20% raise. $13.729 million. That is a lot for a safety. And what it does, Myles, it gives Justin Simmons all the leverage because, and this is like Dak Prescott, it's very simple. He's got $13.729 million in hand, plus next year he'll become a free agent. He will hit the open market. They're not going to tag him again next year because next year it'd take quarterback money to keep Justin Simmons for a third franchise tag. So he can take that or whatever the Broncos offer that is at least as good as that. You compare the two and you make your decision. So a lot of leverage for Simmons. I know the Broncos want to sign him to a long-term deal. $13.729 million is the starting point for year one, and it goes up from there. So they better be ready to dig deep, and makes it even more likely they won't be able to keep Von Miller.
Exactly. And the funny thing is, I always called this, especially the second year of that franchise tag, it becomes a poo or get off the pot situation, right? Because either you're actually going to do this and you're going to commit to long-term to this player that you have now tagged twice, or you're just saying, you know what, this is the last year that we're going to be able to do this. Because as you just said, Mike, based on the way the franchise tag works, you can't really tag this guy again. You're not going to ever pay a safety quarterback money, and you really shouldn't, because that is one of those positions where you can find somebody else who can at least do an adequate job, if not, a Pro Bowl or second team All-Pro job like Justin Simmons. And I feel like I should point out no relation was able to do last year for the Denver Broncos. So he's a very good young player. I mean, we just showed the graphic of where he was on our top 100 list of free agents. And I think that the Broncos would do well to sign him to a long-term deal. However, if they can't, if Simmons feels like, you know what, I'm going to probably be able to make more money on the open market next year, then I can understand why he wouldn't necessarily want to be in a spot in Denver where contention is not necessarily all that guaranteed.
The balance for him is a little more delicate than it would be for a Dak Prescott or a quarterback, because the injury risk, the wear and tear, despite what happened last year to Dak Prescott, it was a fluke thing. For the most part, quarterbacks are less likely to become physically beaten down over the course of a year. Justin Simmons would have to carry that injury risk and the risk that all of a sudden he's not as good as he was after a year, and he gets the $13.729 million plus whatever he gets next year, assuming that risk that maybe he won't be as attractive next year. But that's the challenge for the Broncos now that the tag has been applied. And we're just 4 days away from the closing of the window, and presumably the Broncos just decided, we know we're going to do it. We're not going to bridge the gap between now and Monday. The gap is too big. Let's go ahead and apply it so everyone knows. No one will be tempted to try to tamper with him this weekend. And we've gone ahead and done the safe thing, and we take no chance. Remember, it was the Broncos once upon a time with the Elvis Dumervil contract, the fax machine snafu, probably back when you were in middle school. It feels like it was that long ago, Myles. But you don't want to take any chances with failing to get your paperwork to the league office on time.
No, you don't. I mean, the Browns had a situation like that with the trading deadline a couple of years ago, and they were trying to get A.J. McCarron, although one might argue that that one worked out probably better for the Browns since that fax didn't go in, Mike.
And there's that theory that was making the rounds that who was the guy that was running the office then, the front office? Sashi Brown. That Sashi Brown accidentally failed to get the paperwork in because Hugh Jackson wanted A.J. McCarron and Sashi Brown didn't. It was 2014, so it wasn't that long ago. No, wait, 2013. That the fax machine snafu happened, and Elvis Dumervil ended up being released by the Broncos.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.